Ah, ah, ah. Hi everyone, Warthany Drobe Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it is time for a review of the new Mac DeMarco album, Here Comes the Cowboy. Wapa! Wapa! Just in case you're out of the loop, just in case you've been living under a rock, Here Comes the Cowboy is the latest full-length LP from Canadian native and one of the most popular singers-songwriters in the underground of music currently, Mr. Mac DeMarco. This is his first album since, I guess, ending his longtime partnership with Captured Tracks, since this is being released on Mac's record label. And I was pretty excited to review this one, not only because of the creative upward trajectory that I saw Mac on, thanks to his solidly catchy Another One mini album that dropped several years ago, and also let's not forget the mature and personal direction that he took his songwriting in on 2017's This Old Dog. The fact that Mac is now independent is also pretty exciting, given rumors of creative frictions with his label previously. So maybe now that he's flying solo, we will finally hear the album that he's been dying to make. Also, the first single from this album, Nobody, sure, it had some very obvious Lou Reed vibes, but it was a pretty fantastic tune. A beautiful ballad that found power in its well-written lyrics, in its subtlety, in its simplicity. And I think there are a few other tracks here that achieve that same goal. The song Preoccupied, with its lazy acoustic guitars, its gentle percussion, and the sound of birds tweeting in the background. It's like I'm just listening to Mac perform this song in the moment, organically, in the middle of nature. There's also the romantic and very synth-heavy Heart to Heart, whose chord progression and thuddy bass is bittersweet and cute. It's a song that's big on romance, but small on volume, and the swelling synth chords on the hook create just enough contrast for it to function. Mac really does try to get away with the bare minimum instrumentally on a lot of these tracks. He is purposefully being minimal here. Seeing Mac go in an even simpler direction isn't necessarily a bad thing, but geez, a majority of this record is just so lifeless. And it's not even that the vibe of this album is mellow, it's really that Mac is delivering some of his most one-dimensional songwriting yet. A lot of the writing on this project is painfully redundant and doesn't feature anywhere near as much personality as his previous material. In a way, you could say the opening track on this record sets the tone for the entire album, in that it is Mac lethargically playing these faux country guitar chords and just singing the same lyrics over them again and again and again for 3 minutes until it just fades out. And the obviously related Hey Cowgirl later on the album is almost as tedious. If Mac isn't taking the piss here, he's most certainly doing it on the song Choo Choo, which sounds like a bad Gorillaz ripoff, like a Gorillaz D-side or G-side, or really just like Z-side. It's like this really awkward, absurd funk with chicka-chicka guitars and train whistles. The closing track on this thing is also completely thankless. Feels like Mac is just trying to kill more time for whatever reason. I guess with him doing this record independently, there's no one there to tell him, hey dude, you're just putting filler on this album. It's just filler. All Our Yesterdays and On the Square are okay tracks, but songwriting-wise, they just pretty much sound like Mac DeMarco by the numbers. It's like we've heard him write these songs before, but better. The track Finally Alone sort of picks up the pace in the first leg of the album with its bland disco rhythms, but outside of that vintage groove, there's not really a whole lot here that's all that novel or interesting. There's also the laughable Skyless Moon, which features some very awkward crooning from Mac DeMarco. It sounds like what you would get if you forced Mac and Tom York into a very horrible collaboration with its sour and sad guitar chords and terrible pacing. And I don't know, there's not much else here to cover. This is a very scant album that doesn't have a whole lot going for it. There's no real concept or aesthetic changes here for Mac DeMarco. All you could really say is that, again, he's going in a supremely repetitive and minimalist direction on this one, just trying to, I don't know, maybe embrace some slowcore or experimental singer-songwriter ideas. Maybe he's been listening to some Red House Painters or some Jim O'Rourke, I don't know. Whatever is inspiring this change of pace for Mac, it's really not translating in his songs. As I think this thing is his worst album since Blowing Up and is devoid of anything interesting much of the time. I'm feeling a decent 2 strong 3 on this one. Tran. Zishin, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Mac DeMarco. Here Comes the Cowboy. Forever.